As a pilot and a former Air Force officer, I can definitively say that this craft did not resemble any man-made object that I'd ever seen.
What shuts down an international airport, terrifies hardened U.S. Navy crews, and makes Harvard psychiatrists rethink everything they know? From a mass sighting at a Zimbabwe school that left children forever changed,
we were playing down on the log, and then we saw something shiny, so we all ran.
To a glowing silver sphere vanishing beneath the Pacific without a trace. These are not just sightings, they're events that defy logic, science, and every earthly explanation. Stay with us as we count down the 20 strangest alien encounter stories ever reported. Cigar-shaped mystery. You glance up, and there it is, hanging above Lucca like a silent omen, bold against the crystal-clear February sky. February 18th, 2024. A date now etched into the minds of stunned Italians. What they saw wasn't vague or fleeting. It was deliberate. A metallic, cylindrical object, elongated, smooth, almost surgical in shape, hovering with unsettling calm. It held itself aloft without wings. It moved with no engine. At moments, it stopped mid-air, unmoved by gravity or wind, before drifting forward again. Silent, slow, eerily precise. Onlookers pulled out phones, capturing footage that now defies all conventional explanation. UFO researchers quickly weighed in, not dismissively, not with the usual skepticism. They called it one of the clearest and strangest sightings of the year. And they meant it. The footage, the behavior, the flawless conditions, it all defied easy answers. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the object vanished. But here's where the air gets colder. This wasn't the first. From South America to Scandinavia, witnesses have described near-identical shapes gliding through their skies. So, the question remains, what exactly is using this design? And why does it keep returning? Sky shutdown. Over UFO. Things got real wild in Turkey, and not because of bad weather or tech issues. On February 18th, 2024, Gaziantep Airport had to slam the brakes on every single flight because of a UFO. Yeah, planes grounded, pilots on edge, and air traffic control in full panic mode. So here's how it went down. Around 10 p.m., pilots in the air spotted something cruising at about 9,000 to 10,000 feet. But this wasn't a bird, a drone, or even another aircraft. This thing wasn't showing up on radar. Zero trace. It was just floating up there, doing its own thing, and completely ignoring aviation rules. Air traffic control took no chances and shut down all operations. Incoming flights were rerouted, departures delayed, and for over an hour, Gaziantep Airport became a no-fly zone, thanks to an unidentified flying object chilling above. Officials later said it was probably a drone. Probably. But come on. What kind of drone spooks trained pilots, avoids radar, and causes a full airport lockdown? Locals nearby said they saw weird lights in the sky that night, too. Some even pulled out their phones and captured clips that are still making rounds online. Was this just high-tech gear flying off course? Or are we talking full-blown alien flyby? When a mystery object halts an entire airport, you gotta wonder, what exactly is flying in our skies? SoCal lights spark panic. Something strange went down in Southern California, and the internet's buzzing. We're talking Palmdale and Lancaster, where multiple people spotted mysterious lights zigzagging across the night sky. It wasn't just one person seeing things. This blew up on the Ring Neighbors app, with folks from different blocks sharing video clips and stories that all matched up. These lights weren't your average blinking airplane signals or random flares. Witnesses said they were fast, totally silent, and moved in ways that had zero chill, darting one direction, then suddenly switching course. Some lights even appeared to hover, then vanish in a blink. This wasn't an isolated moment. Sightings were reported over multiple nights, and a few residents were so shook they reached out to local news and even federal authorities. One user posted, "This ain't no plane, bro," while another said it gave off major alien vibes. Of course, skeptics tried to say it might be drones or flares. But come on! The way these lights moved? Too clean, too fast, and way too coordinated to be some backyard drone show. Vanishing sphere mystery. In 2019, the USS Omaha, a fully equipped U.S. Navy warship, recorded something no one aboard could explain. While patrolling the Pacific Ocean, the ship detected a perfectly spherical object flying just above the water's surface. It wasn't erratic. It wasn't vague. It was deliberate, smooth in its movement, controlled, as if it knew it was being watched. Then, without warning, the object dropped straight into the ocean and disappeared. This wasn't a shaky cell phone clip passed around on social media. It was thermal, military-grade footage, verified by the Pentagon. The video shows the object maintaining a steady trajectory, unaffected by wind or weather, and then calmly slipping beneath the waves as though entering a second home. The ship's crew reacted instantly. They scrambled additional vessels. Submarines were deployed to locate the craft. But after an exhaustive search, they came up empty. Even more unsettling, this wasn't an isolated event. The USS Omaha's radar system recorded multiple unidentified objects in the vicinity that same night. Experts have speculated that these could be examples of transmedium vehicles, crafts capable of moving seamlessly between air and water with no apparent resistance. That's not just experimental technology, that's science fiction made real. Alien recess encounter. Nothing about that morning hinted at what was coming. The air was still, the sun warm, and the children at the aerial school in Rua, Zimbabwe, were enjoying an ordinary recess. Then, in a moment, everything changed. In 1994, 62 students witnessed something that would haunt them for decades.
And then we saw something shiny. And we saw two people. They were in black, tight black suit.
A silver craft descending silently into a nearby field. What followed defies easy explanation. From the strange vessel emerged beings, small, humanoid, with elongated limbs and enormous black eyes. The children didn't scream. They stood transfixed. Some later described a kind of silent communication, as though the visitors were speaking directly into their minds. The message? A warning about the Earth's future, environmental catastrophe, collapse, urgency beyond their understanding. These weren't stories shaped by media or imagination. Many of these children had never even heard of UFOs. What makes this encounter stand apart is the eerie consistency. Interviewed separately, across time, the witnesses described nearly identical experiences. Decades later, those children, now adults, still speak with certainty about what they saw. Dr. John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist renowned for his work on alien abduction phenomena, traveled to Zimbabwe to meet them. His conclusion was clear. These children were not fabricating tales. They were sincere, and something had shaken them deeply. Lights over Phoenix. Even the stars seemed to fade that night. March 13th, 1997. Arizona stood still beneath a sky unlike any seen before. It began with a formation of lights, vast and silent, drifting over Phoenix in a perfect V-shape. Witnesses looked up in awe and disbelief as the massive object, stretching the length of several football fields, moved slowly overhead, blocking out the constellations as if swallowing the sky itself. This wasn't confined to a handful of reports. Thousands saw it. Civilians, police officers, commercial pilots, all describing the same thing. And among them, a private pilot who happened to be none other than actor Kurt Russell, who made the first official report from the air. People on the ground watched in stunned silence. The lights did not flicker or scatter. They floated in flawless formation, without a sound, without a tremor. For minutes, they held the sky in their grip, then vanished into the night, leaving behind a deep and lasting question. The military offered a tidy explanation: flares from a training exercise. But flares don't maintain precise alignment. Flares don't drift for miles in dead silence. The people of Arizona knew what they saw, and it wasn't routine. When thousands bear witness to the same impossible vision, perhaps the question isn't what they saw, but why we're still pretending not to believe them. India's Sky Cigar. In the quiet town of Rishikesh, India, famous for its yoga, spirituality, and serene river views, something far from peaceful unfolded. All eyes were locked on the sky. A massive cigar-shaped object was spotted hovering above the city, and the footage? Yeah, it had people doing double takes. The object was long, metallic, and eerily silent. It wasn't zipping around, but it wasn't floating aimlessly either. Witnesses said it just hovered, steady and deliberate, with zero visible wings or force. Locals managed to capture clear photos, and once the media picked it up, the sighting sparked huge buzz online. Some folks called it a blimp or a weather balloon, but honestly, that doesn't explain how perfectly still it stayed, or how it suddenly disappeared from view without a trace. Even more interesting, this wasn't a one-off event. Similar cigar-shaped UFOs have been reported all around the world, from the US to South America. Always quiet, always weirdly smooth in motion, and always leaving more questions than answers. Secrets beneath Baikal. Is this the most overlooked alien mystery on Earth? Beneath the glassy surface of Lake Baikal, the world's deepest freshwater lake, lies a tale few have dared to confront. This ancient body of water, cradled by Siberian wilderness, has long whispered secrets. But what happened beneath its depths during the Soviet era borders on the unimaginable. During routine military training exercises, divers reported encountering something no manual had prepared them for. Towering humanoid beings, nearly 9 feet tall, clad in sleek silver suits. They moved effortlessly through the freezing water, unaided by tanks or visible gear. These entities seem to exist beyond our physical laws, gliding silently in a realm where they didn't belong. The divers, stunned but driven by protocol, attempted to capture one. That decision triggered disaster. A violent force thrust the team to the surface with unnatural speed. Several men died from decompression trauma. The mission was immediately aborted, and the details buried under layers of secrecy. But the mystery didn't end there. Locals have long told stories of glowing objects soaring above the lake and vanishing into its depths. Beams of light shooting from the sky. Craft plunging beneath the waves without sound or splash. Sightings too frequent and too similar to dismiss as fantasy. The Pentagon's blinking visitor. The skies over the Middle East were brutally clear that March day in 2024 when military personnel caught something they couldn't explain. Surveillance drones fed live thermal footage back to base, routine stuff, until an object flashed across the screen. Silvery, fast, wrong. It wasn't large or loud. Lacking wings, rotors, or any visible propulsion, the object sliced through the frame with sharp, unnatural speed. One analyst, watching closely, muttered, "That's not ours." The footage, since released by the Pentagon, shows a smooth, elliptical craft flying in a perfectly straight line. It's short, but sharp. This wasn't a glitch or bird. It was real, tracked by government cameras and logged by the Department of Defense's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. What you don't see in the clip is just as strange. Radar teams reported multiple visual anomalies in the same airspace, none of which appeared on thermal sensors. Moments later, units on the ground reported garbled comms and unexplained signal interference. Everything went weird, fast. This wasn't just another UAP file dumped online. It was a live encounter, caught by trained eyes and military tech, verified, unexplained, and unresolved. The Pentagon won't say it's alien, but they sure aren't calling it anything else. And when unknown objects fly through live military zones unchecked, someone, or something is testing boundaries. Forest Sphere Encounter. Every time we think we've seen it all, the skies offer another riddle. A video surfaced online, quietly at first, posted by Instagram user Cengiz Korekci. But what it captured has since ignited a storm of speculation. The footage shows a perfectly spherical object suspended in the air, deep within a dense, forested landscape. The vegetation presses in close, almost shielding the object from view. But it's there, still, unmistakable, and wholly out of place. This wasn't a blur on the horizon, or a flicker mistaken for a bird. The object appears crisp, solid, and entirely foreign. Neither mechanical nor natural, it floats in defiance of everything we understand about weight, gravity, and movement. The location tagged in the video, Sena de Buga, a quiet municipality in Colombia known more for its rural calm than interstellar intrigue. But the hashtags told another story. UFO, OVNI, UAP, words that carry weight, especially when paired with footage this unnerving. What was this object doing there? Was it surveying, passing through, waiting? The video offers no answers, only a glimpse. And sometimes, a glimpse is all it takes to upend certainty. When a perfect sphere appears in the forest, framed by the leaves and light, it demands more than just attention. It demands that we ask the question we're never quite ready to face. What else is sharing this world with us?
Okay, now it's time for the open discussion.
He opened the door, and this thing was waiting, eyes blazing like burning embers, teeth dripping with something dark and sinister. Imagine the icy chill racing down your spine as your hand freezes on the doorknob. Where did it come from, and how long had it been lurking there in the darkness, waiting for this very moment? What would you do if you came face to face with pure terror staring back at you? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to mention #OpenDiscussion. Guadalajara daylight sighting. We weren't looking for it. We were going about our day, ordinary, routine, when the sky over Guadalajara changed. In the full brilliance of daylight, with clear skies stretching in every direction, something appeared above the city. It hovered, silent, still, impossible to ignore. People stopped in their tracks. Phones rose, eyes widened. There, suspended in the blue, was an object unlike any known craft. It wasn't drifting with the breeze. It wasn't making a sound. It simply remained, motionless and unshaken, above the city skyline. Then the stillness broke. The object began to rotate, slowly, deliberately, catching the sunlight across its surface like a signal. And then, without warning, it accelerated and vanished. This wasn't a trick of night or shadow. It wasn't a fleeting glance or half-seen blur. This was broad daylight, every detail visible, every movement documented. And it wasn't the first time Guadalajara had witnessed the inexplicable, but rarely has it been this undeniable. The footage now circles the globe. Experts examine, skeptics speculate, believers point upward and say, finally. So the question lingers in the warm air over Mexico. Was this a glimpse of advanced technology hidden from the world, or something not of this world at all? UK's alien forest. What happened in Rendlesham Forest still haunts the silence between its trees. December 1980. A cold night near RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk. Lights flickered among the branches, unlike anything the stationed U.S. military personnel had seen before. What began as a suspected aircraft crash quickly unraveled into one of the most unsettling UFO encounters in British history. Multiple airmen ventured into the woods expecting wreckage. Instead, they found a glowing metallic object resting silently between the trees. Some described strange markings etched into its surface, symbols that resembled no language known to man. As they approached, radio communications failed. One airman later claimed he touched the craft and was overwhelmed by a vision. Images, information, delivered directly into his mind. 2 nights later, the lights returned. This time, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt led a team into the forest. He brought a recorder. On the tape, still publicly available, Halt describes beams of light emanating from the object, piercing the dark sky, then shooting downward into the base itself. It didn't drift or fade. It focused. It watched. The Ministry of Defense dismissed it all as misinterpretation. But when trained officers with top-level clearance report something this strange, this precise, dismissing it is no longer enough. Rendlesham remains alive with whispers, of lights, of figures, of messages we weren't meant to understand. And the forest, it watches still. UFO, over Temple Mount. This one's next-level bizarre, and it happened at one of the most sacred spots on Earth. A strange glowing orb appeared right above the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem's Temple Mount, and it was caught on multiple cameras from different angles. This glowing ball of light hovered silently above the holy site for several seconds. Then, out of nowhere, it dropped like a flash, hovered just feet above the dome, and suddenly blasted back into the sky at lightning speed. What makes this even crazier? Witnesses from totally different spots in the city filmed the same exact thing. It wasn't just one sketchy clip. The videos lined up almost perfectly in time, angle, and motion. That's the kind of stuff that gives hoax theories a hard time holding up. Skeptics have tried to write it off as CGI or light tricks, but let's be honest, getting that many angles to sync without flaws in 2011, that's no easy edit job. And let's not ignore the location. The Temple Mount is one of the most watched and spiritually significant sites on the planet. If something truly unexplainable was going to show up, this would be the place. UFO buzzes plane. Keep your eyes on the skies, because sometimes the unknown gets far too close. Mid-flight, high above the clouds, passengers aboard a commercial aircraft were jolted from routine when something shot past their window. It wasn't turbulence. It wasn't a bird. It was a metallic object moving at astonishing speed, and it was caught on video. In the now viral footage, the object appears suddenly, zipping across the frame in a blur of reflective metal. It moves with unnatural precision. This wasn't a drone drifting off course or a glitch in the camera lens. The object casts a shadow, catches sunlight, and remains intact through every frame. It was there, and everyone on that side of the plane knew it. You can hear the reactions in the video. Gasps, confusion, unease.
What is it? Karen, what is that? What is that? Erie, what is that?
Even seasoned pilots have stepped forward online, admitting they've witnessed similar phenomena. Always fast, always unexplainable, and always outside the bounds of known technology. And that's where the danger lies. Aircraft fly in strictly controlled airspace. Every object up there is accounted for. So, when something unidentified moves that fast, that close to a passenger jet, it isn't just mysterious, it's a breach of safety. Triangle over Rome. And just like that, the Eternal City turned its eyes skyward. On the night of November 2nd, 2021, Rome, home to ancient legends and timeless ruins, was struck by a mystery not of its past, but of something far more advanced. Witnesses across the city froze as three glowing orbs appeared above them, locked in a perfect triangular formation. The objects hovered with unsettling precision, suspended above the skyline as if waiting for something. This was no performance, no coordinated drone show or distant aircraft. Locals captured the moment on camera, and the footage is chilling in its clarity. Three lights fixed in geometric stillness, then slowly shifting before fading one by one into the night. Social media ignited. Many compared the sighting to the infamous Black Triangle craft seen near military installations worldwide. Others claimed this was more than technology. It was surveillance, observation, a quiet demonstration from something that wasn't local. Rome is no stranger to strange skies. For centuries, its citizens have chronicled celestial oddities. But this was deliberate. If it was military, it posed an even deeper question. Why reveal it here, above a historic capital, without explanation or warning? Denver's falling UFOs. Wow, when the sky over Denver opens up, it doesn't whisper. It drops. On January 31st, 2021, the mile-high city became the stage for one of the most surreal aerial displays in recent memory. Multiple glowing objects were seen descending, not in chaos, not in flames, but in eerie, measured silence. What made this moment unforgettable? There wasn't just one shaky clip. Three separate videos from different angles captured the same phenomenon. Glowing orbs drifted downward in perfect control, as if guided. Then came the pattern. Witnesses reported the lights forming loose triangular shapes before vanishing into the cloud cover. The footage raced across the internet, and in the communities that tracked these mysteries, a pattern emerged. Similar sightings have been reported across the globe. Calm descents, silent lights, unexplained formations. Of course, skeptics offered their standard explanations. Flares, drones, falling debris. But flares don't hover. Drones don't drift like that. And three independent recordings? That's far more than coincidence. Orange orb at the base. You look up expecting stars, maybe a passing plane, and instead, you see it. A brilliant orange sphere, glowing like a slow-burning flame, hovering silently over restricted military airspace. Witnesses on and around the base described a fiery, radiant object that defied explanation. It didn't drift. It didn't flicker. It held its position in total silence, then, without warning, shot horizontally across the sky at an impossible speed before vanishing altogether. Those who saw it knew instantly. This wasn't ordinary. One observer described its movement as too smooth to be anything man-made. Others were shaken by how close it came to a secure military zone. And when that kind of airspace is violated, people pay attention. So what was the orange orb doing above a U.S. base? Ohio sky shock. A bizarre object spotted in the sky over the Buckeye State had the internet buzzing. This wasn't some blurry dot or late-night illusion, a clear, broad daylight sighting that had folks grabbing their phones, and the footage is still blowing up online. The object looked metallic, but not like a plane or drone. It hovered in place for several minutes, shifting slightly and reflecting sunlight like a mirror. People described it as disc-shaped, just straight chillin' above the treetops like it was scoping something out. What really set this one off? The movement. At one point, the object tilted, rotated, and then slowly drifted before vanishing out of view. No sharp turns, just a smooth exit like it was done with its mission. Skeptics tried to chalk it up to a balloon or a weather drone, but come on. When you've got seasoned skywatchers scratching their heads and people all over the state reporting the same thing? Lights over Lake Erie. Something strange lit up the skies above Lake Erie. And it wasn't imagination. A cluster of glowing orbs hovered silently over the water, steady and bright, defying the usual patterns of planes, drones, or flares. The lights didn't flicker, they didn't blink, they simply were, suspended in the night like watchful eyes. Witnesses along the shoreline stood frozen. The orbs moved with eerie purpose, some remaining perfectly still while others shifted slowly, rearranging themselves into quiet formations. Then, one by one, they disappeared, not fading, not flying off, just vanishing into nothing, as if a switch had been flipped. Skeptics quickly reached for familiar answers: flares, aircraft, tricks of light. But those explanations fell short. Military officials reported no exercises in the area, and the behavior of the lights defied all conventional logic. So what exactly is manifesting above one of North America's most iconic lakes? Whatever the answer, Lake Erie now carries a new kind of legend, one written not in ancient myths, but in glowing lights and unanswered questions. The sky above those waters isn't just open, it's watching. The Roswell Files. Nothing has shaped the modern alien narrative quite like what happened in the desert outside Roswell, New Mexico. It's the event that ignited a global obsession, an incident buried in silence, shrouded in secrecy, and still echoing through time. In 1947, a rancher stumbled upon strange wreckage scattered across his land. Metallic shards, unfamiliar symbols, and fragments unlike anything seen before. He reported it, and the U.S. Army moved fast. Within hours, they issued a stunning statement: flying disc recovered. For a moment, the unimaginable felt real, but the revelation vanished just as quickly. The very next day, the story shifted. Not a disc, they claimed, but a weather balloon. With that, the curtain fell. Yet the questions had already taken root. Whispers grew louder. Witnesses spoke of more than wreckage. Some claimed to have seen bodies, non-human and lifeless, hidden away in hangars. The phrase Area 51 would later become synonymous with concealment. The government offered no clarity. Decades passed. Then, in the 1990s, the Air Force surfaced with a new explanation. It was all part of Project Mogul, a classified balloon operation. But to many, that answer arrived too late, too polished, and too convenient. If you thought these encounters were strange, just wait. There's more out there we haven't even scratched. Hit that like button, subscribe for future drops, and let us know in the comments which story blew your mind. Stay curious, stay sharp, and keep watching the skies.